Hello and welcome to Davos Diaries. I'm Tamanna Inamdar, bringing you the best of what is happening at the World Economic Forum 2026 meet at Davos. This year, of course, an important one geopolitically as well. But at the start of this show, we're going to talk about the corporate Indian voice. India's representation at Davos has been fabulous every year, and this year it's only grown from strength to strength. It's not just large companies that are being represented here, but even newer ones and some that have listed only recently. You're seeing more and more Indian corporates showing their presence on this world stage. Today, we got a chance to catch up with Nadir, of course, the grand old doyen of Indian industry. And he gave some perspective of how Indian corporates are looking at capacity expansion, at the budget, and so much more. All right, we have Nadir Godrej with us here this cold morning. I'm glad that we're twinning, at least with the tie and the coat, and red tie is quite in line with what Trump wears. So that's the big highlight this year, you think, for Davos for you, Mr. Godrej?
There's lots of things happening in the world, and I'm hoping that at Davos, at least we can settle some of them.
Well, that would be great if that really happens. But I think this is a great time to also speak about India's place in the world. And I see massive representation. Of course, you are a Davos veteran, a white badge holder. But this time round, the number of Indian companies that have come in, that is also a sign of India's growing resonance, isn't it?
Absolutely. India's presence in Davos is really felt. And there's so many state pavilions, as well as India Pavilion. And this is a very good sign. And there are lots of established companies who have been coming to Davos for years, as well as many young companies who have come now, startups and recently formed companies in high tech as well, and not just your traditional industries, which is a very good sign for India and India's place in the world.
The theme this year is a spirit of dialogue, and I'm sure you have a lot of interviews, conversations, meetings lined up on the sidelines as well of what's happening. To your mind, what's the biggest talking point right now?
I think there is a lot of polarization in the world, and dialogue is absolutely important. We need to find more and more middle ground, which can only be done through dialogue.
From the Indian perspective, we have the budget coming up. We're right in the middle of the quarterly results. And what corporate India is showing perhaps in this quarter is resilience. Do you see that trend continuing, especially from your sector and your perspective?
Yes, I see a lot of resilience. We have had a lot of geopolitical setbacks with high tariffs, etc. And obviously, the tariffs have caused pain to certain companies, but they don't seem to have affected the Indian economy as a whole. And the recent GST reforms, which were troublesome in the very short run because of the changeover, but now the benefits of the GST reforms are kicking in. And I'm really looking forward to other tax reforms in the budget that will help the economy. And I'm also looking forward to more government investment in the economy. We shouldn't be worried about the budget deficit if it is calculated in a way so as to grow the economy. We shouldn't be worried about tax cuts because many tax cuts can actually raise the revenue. We should look for tax cuts that help us raise revenue. And if we have a budget deficit, but the economy grows very fast, we can ensure that debt to GDP falls steadily. What
are some of the reforms that you're hoping for? You mentioned that, there should be more reforms coming in the budget. What are some of these?
I'm not going to say anything specific on specific kind of taxes, but the kind of reforms they did in the GST with lower taxes that actually increase GST revenue and help to grow the economy. I'm looking for opportunities like that. I'm also looking for reforms towards ease of business. There's a lot has been done for ease of business, and the only reason our economy is growing is because of this, but much more can be done and should be done.
Absolutely. Last point, I'm asking this to everyone who I meet. If you have an opportunity to say one thing to President Trump while he's here, I don't know if you have a meeting or not, what would that be? into the camera?
I would urge him to try and find an understanding with Europe about Greenland. Greenland is very open to him using Greenland's territory to defend the free world. And that will be a golden opportunity for him. And I'm sure he would then deserve the Nobel Peace Prize.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Godrej. Always a pleasure speaking with you. That is Mr. Nadir Godrej at his very best. What's interesting this year round is the presence of investors, those who are looking at Indian markets very closely. In fact, at the airport on my way here, someone from a family office came up to me and said they were speaking at one of the sessions in Davos. I had the opportunity to speak with two very sharp PE voices, Manish Kejriwal and Rishi Kapoor, and their outlook on the private equity space in Indian markets is very, very positive. Listen in. Investcorp manages about 5,000 crores in India, a lot of them, and all in the private equity space. That is red hot right now from an Indian perspective, much more than public markets, I would say, Rishi. What is your perspective there, even as Indian markets seem to be sort of muted?
So as you rightly pointed out, we closed our latest private equity fund back in the summer of 2025 at about north of 5,000 crores. But the money we manage in India is actually close to $1 billion. Wow. So it's even larger, spread across predominantly our private equity portfolio, where we've made about 18 investments over the course of the last 8 years that we've been in the country for. So in one sense, we are babies in the country because Investcorp itself has been in this business of private investing for over 4 decades. But in another sense, the experience thus far in India, but more importantly, what we see evolving and unfolding in India has been very encouraging and promising, right? It's been thus far, over the last 8 odd years, one of our best performing markets in terms of outcomes, returns for our investors, distributions to our investors, and appetite from investors to invest into India. So this recent fund that we referenced, the 5,000 crore fund, we have participation in that fund from our traditional clients in the Middle East, family offices and institutions. We have participation from domestic investors in India, both institutions and private wealth. And we have participation from international institutions that are looking at the market in India as one of the few bright spots of continued economic growth and therefore the promise of return.
For foreign investors, it just doesn't make sense to see your investments or your returns depreciating with the rupee.
If you were to look at it just from that one lens, I would have to agree with you. But fortunately, we have the benefit of being able to take a multifaceted, multidimensional view to that. And the other side of that same coin is the fact that that depreciation of the rupee that has happened at a slightly more accelerated pace over the last 12, 18 months has actually made India more competitive, right? And if India is more competitive, guess what? Economic activity will be better, it'll be stronger, the growth prospects will be faster, and we are going to benefit from that. So it's never, just the one side of that coin that is relevant. You always have to look at the second and the third order effects. And that's exactly what we've seen in our portfolio. Despite a faster than expected depreciation of the rupee over the course of the last 8 years, we typically think about it in 3% terms. It's been slightly higher, but not materially higher. Despite all of that, we are generating very strong returns. Net IRRs well into the mid-teens and high teens on a dollar basis, after all depreciation, everything. And our investors are happy. And we've had exits. We took 2 companies public back in December. We've distributed a lot of cash back to our investors. And they want to turn around and recycle it right back into the economy because, like I said, it's one of the top 3 high conviction markets globally right now.
What are the kings and queens of your portfolio, or the emerging bright stars? I mean, at least sectors or some direction and color that you can give us.
So let me tell you this. If you're a parent with more than one child, you know the answer to that question. You love all your children, right? Now, some children are easier to love.
I thought you were going to talk about the education sector. You just went somewhere else. You have more children than one in India. No, but I mean, just for our viewers right now, and a lot of our viewers are investors in Indian equity and private equity as well, just to give them a sense and a key takeaway of what sectors are looking good. Where are the growth spots in India?
No doubt. So on a more serious note, our focus from a sectoral perspective in India, which is how we approach every market, by the way, is predominantly on consumer and technology-enabled consumer businesses, really banking on that continued demographic evolution of people entering the middle class, having a higher propensity to spend on, good quality but affordable goods and services.
Platform companies.
Platform companies. Second, healthcare. That's a big focus. Nephroplus, the company we took public in December, is one of the largest dialysis services providers. ASG, eye clinics before that, and so on. Third, IT services. We really like that space because of the competitive edge that India has established in that niche. New Summit, one of our portfolio companies, is bang in the center of that domain.
Manish, you are a Davos veteran, and you've done a beautiful piece today where you say this time Davos feels different. Is it because of Trump?
No, I don't think it's because of Trump. I think the world's a much more complicated place. If you see what we talked about, graduating college when I did, even though we were a lot less worldly wise, the Berlin Wall was falling. You had perestroika going on in Gorbachev. The world, we all ran to Berlin. We happened to be in Budapest. Even though you were fewer resources, you felt optimistic for the world. My son graduated from Columbia. There was violence around Columbia last year. But it's the world they're moving into is so different. Instead of going multipolar, you're going unipolar. Instead of going multilateral, you're going single way. Who would have thought economically the tariffs would do what they did last year? But that itself falls into complete myopia when you look at, in this January, you suddenly had both Venezuela and now Greenland, right? So it is a very different place. I think we need to be very thoughtful. Of course not, we are little red dots, the people that matter, the global leaders, 6 of the G7 are here. I think there is some serious need for very intense Davos-like discussions, which is better, I'm sorry to say, kept private. It's not in the social media, because once you're out in the open, part of that becomes ego taking over or positioning, if you remember.
But that's exactly what's happening, right? Everything is out in the open.
Yeah.
6 of the G7 leaders are here. Some of them have had slanging matches already on social media. They will be in the same room over the next couple of days. We don't know what's going to happen when Trump speaks. All of this geopolitically seems unnerving. But on the other side, if you look at it from an investor's lens, US equity markets are doing great. Economy is doing fine. IMF outlook on which has come in today, globally on inflation, India is fantastic. So some would say, maybe Trumpians would say, what are you complaining about?
No, fair point. And I think let's keep the two separate. I think as far as India is concerned, frankly, we are a domestic market. As investors, we do most of our investments in financial services and consumer. For us, India is the world, in a matter of speaking. None of our financial products companies, barring a few fintech ones, look at global markets. They're all domestic markets. If you look at the consumer, one of our largest plays last year was Lenskart, Vishal, Megamart. 95% of their revenue is domestic. So what's happening globally didn't affect us that much, right? The US markets is a totally different driver. If you look at the US markets and you remove expenditure on AI and what the big, the big 7 stocks, the tech 7 stocks, the Mag 7 stocks have done, the overall economy is not that healthy. I'm no expert in the US economy. You hear people talking about stuff, but if you look at just the amount of investments going into AI, not just in technology companies, but in data centers and hence in power companies. That's what's really driving the economy right now in the US. I do think that he's also doing what's right for the country, for his country, right? Getting jobs back. So if you look at it from a very MAGA perspective, whether it's getting, the question is, will you ever make shoes ever again in Minneapolis or in, so some of it is overreach, but that's his negotiating style. He knows he's in a position of power. Look at Greenland. Who would do that? But what do the Danes do? What does Greenland do? Barring international multilateral pressure, he can go if you could take out Maduro from his fortified home in Venezuela, Greenland's an easy target. The only thing that can keep the world where it is the multilateral institutions working. And that is what I'm worried about. The UN played its role phenomenally for the last 75 years. Today, when not only the US, but multiple other countries challenge the authority of the unit, I mean, I don't even know if we can call it the authority of the UN or of the Security Council, they will essentially force each other to behave in a similar manner. So you will have a situation where what happens in Greenland will be followed up with what's wrong in Putin getting Zelensky in a nice hotel room in Moscow, or the Chinese going across the straits to Taiwan.
Might is right. We live in a world where might is right. While it's business as usual in some sense at Davos, with people having meetings on the sidelines, talking about deals and networking, the dominant factor this year undoubtedly is the impending visit of US President Donald Trump. Now, what we're hearing is that tomorrow, at 5 p.m. Davos time, Donald Trump will be meeting with a group of business delegates, including top names from Indian industry. We have some of those names, but perhaps we can't quite share them. Suffice to say, the who's who will be present at that meeting. But what does Trump mean right now for the world and at Davos? My colleague Vishnu Shom caught up with Ian Bremmer. Listen in.
Donald Trump, day after tomorrow, do you expect him to really redefine the stage with what he says over here in Davos?
I think it's always wise not to predict what Trump is going to do on a given day.
Right.
But what he is doing is redefining America's role in the global order. He is not committed to the U.S. Principally supporting a collective security system with its allies. He's not committed to supporting U.S. free trade architecture globally. He's not committed to supporting rule of law. And the Europeans most rely on that. So this is a crisis for Europe. It's a crisis for the transatlantic relationship. Anything he says is going to be seen in that context by everyone here.
So let's talk a little bit about Iran before we speak about Greenland, the hot topics as they were.
Yeah.
Some would suggest that action hasn't already taken place against Iran militarily because executions have been halted, if indeed they have been. I mean, that's his belief. Do you believe that there is still some road for talk, compromise, call it what you want, between America and Iran?
I think that there's still time for talk. But Supreme Leader Khamenei has so far shown an unwillingness to provide meaningful concessions on the issues that would move the needle with the Americans on the ballistic missile program, on uranium enrichment and inspections, and on provision of support for the so-called axis of resistance, the Iranian proxies around the region. Absent that, I do think that the likelihood of U.S. military intervention directly in Iran once the American military is in place, especially to be able to adequately defend troops and Israel in the region, I think that likelihood is going way up. We are not out of the woods on Iran.
Why does Trump want Greenland?
I wish I knew. Why does Trump want his name on things? Why does Trump want the Kennedy Center to be called the Trump Kennedy Center? Why is he so desperate to have a Nobel Peace Prize? Why does he put his name? I mean, historically, his life has been, and his greatest success has been about promoting his brand. It's been about how, Trump, even on things he doesn't own, he wants them to be named Trump, and he gains some benefit from that. You and I speak for myself, I would not feel any particular growth in self-worth from having my name on something I didn't do anything for. But Trump doesn't feel that way. And so for Trump, being able to own Greenland, and he's seen it on the map, and it looks a lot bigger with the Mercator projection than it really is. He wants to say it's his. Look, everyone I've spoken to in the administration does not have a good reason for why you need to own Greenland to ensure the security concerns that the Americans have. The Danish Prime Minister, who I know very well, has already said many times to the Americans, all of your security concerns, we are prepared to negotiate. The Americans have been unwilling to negotiate those concerns with her. So obviously, this is something more existential for Trump, and this is something involving his own personal ego. And, when the interests of the president as a person become different from the interests of a country, you have a real problem. And that's where we are on this issue.
While it's all about business suits and meetings and networking at Davos, we took the time to give you a sense of what it really is like being here, what it is outside the Congress Center, the promenade, all of the lounges that you see, and also where you can see the sights and sounds of Davos. Take a look at some of our experiences. What's like some chai in the freezing cold at Davos? But this is not regular chai. This is CHAI with the AI tadka to the whole experience. I'm at the TCS chai stall, and give it to Indians to have a chai stall wherever they go. But this one has AI as part of it. Now, how it works is this AI flavorist will be recommending what tea I should have depending on questions that I answer. So let's check it out.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Chai Central. Which country are you visiting from?
I'm coming in from India.
Namaste. The day is well underway where you are from. Here at Chai Central, TCS is blending technology with a heritage of Indian tea and coffee. It's a calm space in Davos, created for a thoughtful moment. Do you prefer tea or coffee?
I'd like to try some tea.
Based on your unique personality and preferences, oolong would be the tea variety most suited to you. The wide range of layered, smooth flavors of oolong tea, from light and floral to dark and roasted, is a perfect match to your personality. In the blends we are serving today, you would find the closest match to your recommended flavors in the dawn of Darjeeling. Now, let's capture a Davos memory for you. Please click the button below to share this moment of dialogue with a personalized postcard.
So the AI flavorist suggested I get some oolong tea, but honestly, I'm in the mood for some masala chai. Hi, can I get some masala chai, please? Well, that's a wrap on this edition of Davos Diaries, but I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, to get you the latest coming in from the World Economic Forum in Davos.